My name is Rabbi Naiman. I work for an organization called NCSY in America. I'm just going to say this a lot faster this time. We're learning chapter 2, Mishna 11 in Pirkei Avot, in memory and schus of Ezriel ben David and Zecher Tzaddik Livracha. Without further ado, I'll just jump in. So sorry about that. I'm going to share my screen so we can all see the Mishnah. That's not it. Here we go. So this is the Mishnah. I'm going to read it in Hebrew and then we'll go through it in English. Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Ayin hara, v'yetzer hara, v'sina tabriot, motzina ta'adam min ha'olam. So Rabbi Joshua said, an evil eye, the evil inclination, and hatred for humankind puts a person out of the world. Literally, motzi'ina ta'adam min ha'olam, it takes you outside of the world. Very interesting terminology, which we'll jump into as we delve more into this. But these are the three things, really, the several things that Rabbi Yeshua said. The Mishnah is in the middle of elucidating a bunch of different favorite phrases of 5 different rabbis. And this is what Rabbi Yeshua's favorite things that he would say are. So just to recap them, the things that will take you out of this world are a bad eye, an ayin hara, yetzer hara, an evil inclination, right, a bad inclination, and sinat habriot, hatred for, we said humankind, but in reality, briot means all creations, really, just bara, like bereshit, like the word bereshit just means creations. And so these are the 3 things that will literally take you out of the world. So I wanted to jump in, talk about what might be going on here. What is Rabbi Yeshua trying to tell us on a deeper level? Even on a surface level, those are very important things for us to remember throughout our days, but let's dive a little bit deeper. So there is, this always fascinated me. There's a fascinating experiment that was done, I believe, in the 1980s, but has been replicated many times since, called the double slit experiment. And it's part of, it's really almost like the original experiment in quantum physics. I'm not going to go into it, but you can go on YouTube if you want to look up double slit experiment explained. There's videos ranging from 2 minutes to an hour long explaining what the double slit experiment is. But essentially, what they do in a double slit experiment is they have 2 slits. They have a wall, and there's 2 slits in the wall, and there's a wall behind that wall. And they put light through those slits. Now, when no one is looking at the light, the pattern that is created on the far wall is waves. The light will act in waves, and the light can kind of go anywhere, and it can be splayed on the wall in any way, shape, or form. However, what's incredible is that when someone is looking at the light, when the light is being observed by a camera, by a person, doesn't make a difference. When human sight is involved, the light literally acts completely different. In fact, it changes shape completely. Everything about the light changes and moves from a wave to a particle, and it makes a completely different pattern on the wall. It makes just a pattern instead of a wave pattern. It just makes 2 slits, just kind of like 2 lines on the wall. And what baffled scientists, and still baffles scientists in a lot of ways, is like how what's going on over here? Just because I'm looking at something, how is that changing the actual thing itself? I'm not a scientist, I'm a rabbi. But one thing that we can very obviously take from here is this concept that just by looking at something, just by observing that thing, you literally can change it. You have an impact on something, physically speaking, just by looking at something. There is a pretty well-known rabbi named Rabbi Naiman. You may have, if you've been to Israel, you may have seen Rabbi Naiman vans, or you might have seen Nachman Meuman. You might have heard their song Rabbi Naiman, and they're typically very happy Hasidim, wearing these big white yarmulkes that say Rabbi Naiman on it, Nachman, with payas, and they're always dancing. They're always happy. Rabbi Naiman was this amazing rabbi who actually suffered from chronic depression, who died very young. I believe he was in his late 30s when he passed away. And he wrote a book called Likutei Maharan. And in the last chapter of his book, it's chapter 282. In the circles of people who learn this book, it's such a well-known chapter. It's called Reish Pei Bet, which is in numerics in Gematria, and Hebrew numerics is 282. Reish Pei Bet. In Hebrew, you can literally say Repabta, which would mean in English would be like, have you 282'd? Because it's such a powerful, pretty lengthy chapter, but it's so much powerful information. And the gist of the entire chapter is about what happens when you look at another person. What is happening when you are viewing another person for good or for bad, for positive or negative? Are you judging favorably or negatively? And he says, when you're judging a person favorably, we have this commandment to judge another person favorably. In Hebrew called it dan lekaf zechut, to judge another person favorably. When we're judging them favorably, he says, you're literally, it's not just like, oh, I'm a better person because I've judged them favorably. He said, you are having an effect on that person. That person is being uplifted. That person is feeling better about themselves. That person in heaven with the scales of right and wrong, of good and evil, is being tilted towards good. When you view something, anything, in a positive light, and you're bringing that positive energy to it, you're having an actual impact on everything around, not just on yourself, on everything around you, in a very literal way, not just metaphoric. That's kind of the point of what I'm trying to get across here. This is, I think, what Rabbi Yeshua is telling us when he says, if you want to be fully in this world, the way to do it, the way to start doing it is with an ayin, the worst way to do it is with an ayin hara. That's what will take you out of this world. What will keep you in this world is an ayin tova, is to view things in a positive light. Of course, the hardest place to do this, typically speaking, at least for me, not talking about anyone else here, is ourselves. How often do we judge another person favorably, but we'll judge ourselves too harshly? I see most people's cameras are off, but you can answer this in your own head at home. But if you're a type of person who sometimes judges himself hard or herself harder than they would someone else, or holds themselves to a standard that sometimes you would never even hold anyone else to, like your kids or your friends or someone that at work, and we're sometimes use this ayin hara, this negative approach on ourselves. I heard a great tip one time from a friend of mine who's a therapist, and he was talking to a student that we both had, and he was saying to me, the student was beating himself up over something, and he's like, okay, he says, okay, great, Aryeh, you're beating yourself up right now over this. How long are you going to beat yourself up over this? Like literally, pick a time. It's Monday. Tomorrow till Tuesday afternoon. Fine, I'll beat myself up till Tuesday afternoon. Pick a time, and then I'm done. We need to stop viewing ourselves negatively for days and weeks and sometimes months on end, God forbid. We're putting all this negative energy onto ourselves, into ourselves. And sometimes we might be so hard on ourselves because we're like, you know what, we knew better. Broke my diet. Like I could have done better. I could have, I shouldn't have even opened up the chocolate bar. I shouldn't have even opened up the pantry. I mean, now it's Pesach, so it's easier, at least for me. So, right, we like, and because we are so much in our head and we know all of the information, we sometimes judge ourselves way harder than we should. In reality, I believe that is the yetzer hara, that is the evil inclination, because there's something called the yetzer hara, the evil inclination, and the yetzer tov, which is the positive, the good inclination. Right? We could, one approach to ourselves could be like, I failed again. Third week trying to do this diet. Sorry for begging the table. Right? Third week trying to do this diet, and I keep failing. I'm such a failure. I'm never going to make it. And all this negative spiral that we have, when we could be saying, which is equally, obviously, probably much better, is the yetzer tov. Wow, I'm so amazing for trying to start a diet. You can all see clearly what's on my mind right now with this diet. You can all, right? We like, I'm so incredible that I tried to start this diet. Like, okay, everyone falls. That's okay. Use that to fuel yourself to get through the next candy bar, the next piece of chocolate cake. That's how we would talk to a friend. That's how we maybe talk to our children. And yet sometimes when we come to ourselves, we don't. The Yetzer Tov is what's going to fuel us, going to involve us in the world, what's going to be able to push us to go move forward. Wow, I'm so amazing. I'm so amazing that I rarely ever speak gossip. Okay, today I failed. That's bad. It's hard. It's not an okay thing. I need to go make amends. But I'm not a terrible person. I generally don't speak gossip. Wow. Viewing ourselves with this positive light and listening to the voice inside that says positive things, that Yetzer Tov is what's going to fully involve us in this world, to be fully engaged in this world in a positive way. Our Yetzer Hara, our evil inclination, wants us to look at things negatively. And when we are constantly in this state of looking at things negatively, of criticizing, of the first thing you see is like, oh my gosh, they could have designed that better. Oh my gosh, that dress is does not look good on her. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that I slept in late again. Whatever the story is, first let's think about the positives before we start thinking about how we can improve things, how we can make things better. First, think about what it is and how positive, how great it is before you start thinking about making things better. What are the consequences of having? What are the consequences of these two things, of an evil eye and an evil inclination? Is sinat habriot. That's what Rabbi Yeshua is telling us. Is hatred of all things. Right, when you are looking around again on the same line and everything's negative, and your relation and wherever you look needs improvement, and my car could be better, my house could be better, my relationship could be better, my daily routine could be better, everything could be better, and I never accept the beauty and the gifts of everything around me, of how incredible it already is right now, then you're going to eventually start to one could eventually start hating everything around them, because everything around them could be better. Oh, I wish I had. If only my salary was the same salary as Joe's across the way. If only and we start getting to this negative pattern, and eventually this will take you out of the world. Motzi'ina ta'adam min ha'olam, says the Mishna. I want to share one more quote with you. I'm going to share my screen. So this is the Rambam, Maimonides. I cut out a bunch just to make it shorter. He said, much desire and badness of the soul, that a sickness which brings a man to be disgusted with that which his eyes see, and he will hate it. And he will prefer the company of animals and isolation in wilderness and forest, and he will choose an uninhabited place. And this is with him not because of, I have no idea how to pronounce this word. I grew up in Israel. Well, you can all read on your own, but not right. It's not the idea of being, like, oh, I'm trying to be pious and trying to, disconnect from the world to raise to a higher level. That's not what's going on, but rather because of the lack of desire and his jealousy of others. These will, without a doubt, kill a man, as his body will get sick and he will die before his time. These are powerful words from the Rambam, from Maimonides, right? When you can literally make yourself sick, you can make yourself physically ill to the point where you might just leave the world because you, at a young age, obviously, we're not talking about someone who died of old age and lived in a powerful, incredible life. We're talking about someone who, God forbid, actually, and unfortunately, this has happened to, I still work with a little bit of teens at risk in Israel, not in America. And I've unfortunately seen this throughout my years of working with teens at risk. I don't want to go too much into it, but when you are when you're constantly have these negative voices, constantly in this negative spiral, it can literally make you sick. I think that a core tenet of Judaism is that the physical and spiritual, I know I'm going to finish in about 60 seconds, that the core tenet is that the physical and spiritual are are super interconnected and super affect each other all the time. And when are we not fully thriving spiritually, positivity and glowing and joy and happiness and radiating with divine light and recognizing that God is a part of our everyday lives, it can and will eventually affect our physical as well. As we go into Pesach and then the Sfirat HaOmer, you know what, I'm a little bit out of time, so I'm going to pause there. But I think that one of the most important parts, one of the most important lessons that we can take from this as we go into a time where we may be spending a lot of time with family or friends over the Pesach and over the Seder. Let's remember to bring that positive light. Let's put our energies on where the focus should be, on positivity, on constantly thinking with an ayin tova, looking at things with a positive light, judging favorably, acting with respect, looking at people positively. And a yahrzeit tov, with always being inclined to do good, and that will bring us to the opposite of Rabbi Yeshua said, to love all things and all circumstances and all happenstances that happen to us. Wishing everyone a beautiful Pesach, beautiful Passover, and again, like I said in the beginning, the share should be in memory and a schus, a merit for Israel ben David. Zecher Tzadik Livracha. Have a good day, good evening, wherever you may be in the world, and it was great learning with you.